on the jersey. I'm just not a big fan of it. Really plain. Like Christmas Day, I expect something cool, something flamboyant, something different. This is a little bit bland. And then on the back, first of all, the white box surrounding the name. I'm not exactly sure what the NBA is trying to do with that. It looks like an advertisement, like you said, like a European. I mean, even European soccer jerseys are better than this. European soccer jerseys have lots of bright colors. That's just weird. It's like an advertisement below the name almost. It's so. I just don't like it in the first name. It's boring. And then
I don't like the border around the name either.
I don't.
That actually looks weird as well.
Exactly. And then the first name. Look, there are probably like 3. There could be a team with like 3 Johns on it. I don't want to know. I don't want to be like, oh, there's John and John and John. It just doesn't make sense. Nobody cares about. I mean, people care about the first names, but when you refer to a player, you do not refer to Derek on the Bulls. If you're on a Bulls show, maybe you do. But I don't say it's John on the Wizards and Bradley on the Wizards. It's Beal and Wall. That's how it's always been. It's just a poor decision. Overall, this is one of the worst Christmas jerseys. I'm going to give it like an F. To be honest, I just really don't like these jerseys. I won't buy them. And I'm going to the Christmas Day game against the Lakers. I'm just not looking forward to watching this. It's just going to be painful. And then again, it's against the Lakers, too. So, I
was about to say why, because you have to look at these jerseys, or because you have to watch Kobe Bryant shoot 98% of his team's shot and still only score 60 points.
Oh, that's going to be fun to watch. Kobe's... Here's the thing. The Lakers are so bad, I just think they should let Kobe go for Wilt Chamberlain's record. Just give him the ball. Just let him shoot threes all day, and he'll just brick. But that's how they seem to want to play it. Byron Scott seems to think
Get out of my way.
Exactly. And it's funny, though, because Byron Scott says we shouldn't take threes, and then Kobe takes like 30 threes, and he's perfectly fine with it. Oh well, that's the Lakers. Jerseys, not a hit. Not a hit. Moving on. Fact or fiction time. CB, take it away.
Fact or fiction? Okay. The first fact or fiction. Memphis is a title contender.
You know, Memphis is off to a good start. Not going to deny that. They look pretty solid, and there's no taking that away from them. But I don't see a title contender court. Maybe they can get past the first round. Maybe they'll compete for Western Conference Finals. I mean, they've done it before. But I don't trust Mike Conley, Courtney Lee, and Tony Allen as a group that will lead your team there. Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol are solid. Conley's a good point guard, but them three, I just don't trust. I just don't trust this team. Their bench is relatively weak. I don't trust Beno Udrih, Jordan Adams. I like Vince Carter. Everybody likes Vince Carter, but Costa Koufos and John Lure, it's just inexperienced. It's time to go back to Tayshaun Prince. That's who they have. It's not a deep enough team, especially in the West. And we've seen lots of situations where a team starts off hot and then just drops off. You look at the teams they've beaten, and it's not that impressive, to be honest. Sacramento, pretty solid win, but of course filled with controversy. New Orleans, a pretty solid win. They're getting a big win right now over Houston. But once again, I still think that they haven't hit that hard part of the schedule. They're going to have to play the Clippers, the Raptors, the Blazers, the Kings are upcoming. They'll have a stretch where they have to play a lot of tough teams, especially in December, where they have Rockets, Spurs, Heat, Mavericks, Hornets. They've got the Warriors, the Spurs again away from home. They've got the Bulls, Cleveland, Houston. They've just got a stacked schedule in that month. That's the make or break year. I just don't see that with this team.
Yeah, maybe we slept a little bit on them too much in the preseason, and they're probably a better basketball team than we've been giving them credit for. But title contender of the West is too deep. There's too many good teams. I can see them making the playoffs, maybe winning a series or two, but I can't see them getting past the Spurs, the Rockets, the Thunder if they rebound, and just teams like that. I don't see them being able to beat those teams and grind them out. And that's going to move us on to our next fact or fiction. Sacramento is a playoff team. Fact or fiction?
Here's the thing. I think this team is a lot better than we thought they were. Like the Grizzlies, I think we slept on them a bit. I'd like to say faction, like right in between the two, because I think this team has the potential to be a playoff team, but I think a lot of it depends on how things shake out, the maturity of the team. And then also how the other teams play. But I think this team's a little young. I think they are the Suns. I think they're going to make a strong push. But I think you've seen it the past 4 games. Lost to the Thunder, lost to Dallas, lost to Memphis. They got a win against San Antonio, but they're losing to some more experienced teams. Still a young team, and I think you're going to see that over this next month as they play some more experienced teams. I think you're going to see that inexperience show. I think they are going to end up around 9 or 10 in the West. They'll miss out, but this is a team to watch out for next year, especially as they mature.
Yeah, I can't agree at all. I'm saying this is completely fiction. I just can't trust a team starting. Ben McLemore might be better this year, but Darren Collison, he's been in numerous situations, been trying to give him the starting point guard job, and every single time he's been found a way to mess it up there. DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay is a solid 1-2 group, but DeMarcus Cousins always finds a way to get mad at someone, and he goes through those stretches where he'll completely lose his mind. And I just don't know can a team playing Carl Landry 21 minutes really make the playoffs? And then if you look at the teams that are not in the playoffs right now that are going to make the playoffs in the West, Sacramento right now is sitting at 6-4 and they're 8th in the West because it's such a strong conference compared to the East. But if you look at it, the Spurs are not in the playoffs currently at 5-4. They're going to make the playoffs, obviously. And then teams that also below them right now are Phoenix, who I would say is definitely better than them, and then Oklahoma City, who's going to rebound and certainly be better than Sacramento. I don't know if Sacramento can really keep it going. I think Memphis, Houston, Golden State, Portland, Dallas, Clippers, and New Orleans, the 7 teams ahead of them, are clearly better than them, and there's at least 3 teams below them that are better than them outside the playoffs right now. So there's no way to me that they have a chance to make the playoffs, so I'm going to go complete fiction. Yeah. And on to the next one. Oklahoma City will miss the playoffs. I just talked about this a little bit. They're sitting currently at 3-8. Tough start for them, but no, do you think they'll still make the playoffs?
They'll make the playoffs. The question is where now. For me, how they've played, I think this has shown just how important Durant and Westbrook are for this team, and they haven't been able to stay healthy over the past few years. One of them always seems to pick up an injury. I think by the time they get back, they'll have a pretty bad record, looking at 8-18, 8-19 probably. This team just hasn't played well without them. They've had injuries even to their other players, so they just can't stay healthy. They're going to have to dig themselves out of the hole. They will, but at this point, I had them as, I believe, a 5th seed before, 4th or 5th seed. I think I'm dropping them down to a 7th or 8th seed right now, especially in a deep West where you're not going to have as many chances and where they're going to still need... This is the problem. Those first 20 games are the time where they have to mesh. Now they have to spend another 20 games in the middle there where they're going to have to remesh. It's going to be tough, but they'll make the playoffs and they'll still be a legitimate threat. But it's tough for the Thunder. They have ended up in a really bad situation, but they'll get out of it. I have confidence in this Thunder team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think it's as high as I originally thought they're going to be. They're struggling a little more as a unit than I thought. I think this team, though, would still make at least a 7 or an 8 seed and probably make some noise in the playoffs. Durant and Westbrook's an undeniable combination. You throw that with Serge Ibaka, and then a decent bench there with Pierre Jackson, and then Perry Jones has been playing well as well. I think this team's still very good when they're healthy, and it's still a long way from being healthy. They'll probably have a bad record again, as he said, when they get those 2 back. But that team is the number one, is close to number 1 seed every year with those players. I think they'll be easily able to get back in the playoffs.
Yeah,
we're going to move on. And we're going to move on to the next one. Fact or fiction? Milwaukee was underrated.
Oh, that is the. This is the first. This is another fiction. No, not underrated. Fact. Definitely underrated. And not because of their starters. Not because of Knight and Dudley and Parker and Sanders and Ilyasova. Frankly, I've been really disappointed in their starters. I just haven't enjoyed watching this Bucks team when those guys are on the court, except for Knight. I've liked Knight. And Jabari's been okay. But it's been their bench. It's not because they're putting up eye-popping numbers off the bench, but it's because they have such a great contribution. You've got guys like Giannis, who is now second on the team, putting up about 12 points. OJ putting up about 11. You've got Chris Middleton as well. Just those 3 alone put up 33 off the bench. Jared Bayless putting up 7. That's already 40. Pachulia putting up around 5. They've got one of the best benches in the NBA right now in terms of scoring. And I think that's what's made them underrated. Now, are they a team that's going to make the playoffs? Probably not. I mean, in the East, you could maybe push there and fight for a playoff spot. But I really do like what I've seen from Milwaukee. And I think there's a lot of promise out of there, especially when you look at the core being Knight, Antetokounmpo, and, of course, Jabari Parker, all young players with bright futures ahead. Not to mention that they brought in Kendall Marshall, who had a pretty good year with the Lakers last year. I do like what I've seen from the Bucks thus far, and I think they have been a bit underrated.
I'm going to go fiction. I think they're a decent team in the East, and I think maybe some people thought that they were going to be completely terrible this year. But I think sort of the most basketball fans didn't think they were going to be one of the worst teams in the East. I kind of thought they'd hover close to a playoff spot. Again, they have some players there. They're not really doing much better than I expected. In a weak East, I think their 5-5 is really inflated to how they really are. I don't think they're really underrated. I would say they're about where they are, but I'm going to go fiction again here as well. And then finally, our last factor fiction: the Bulls are the best team in the East. Factor fiction.
Fact. This is purely dependent on whether or not Derrick Rose is healthy. Healthy Derrick Rose, yes. Not healthy Derrick Rose, I put Toronto, Cleveland, and maybe Washington above us. It's so hard to win without Rose right now, and I think that really showed against the Pacers. Another big issue has been rebounding. It's been a mess considering Chicago's their calling card has been rebounding and defense. When you're putting up 102 points a game, something that just unheard of for Chicago, that's great. But when you're allowing 98, that's not quite what we've come to expect from this Bulls team. It'll get better as time goes on, but once again, if Rose is healthy, Chicago's a team that could find themselves in the NBA championship, maybe winning one for the first time since Michael Jordan was a Bull. But without Derrick Rose, I don't think we are. So this is a purely conditional fact.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. With Derrick Rose, this is clearly the best team in the East. With Derrick Rose, they're still scoring over 100 points, and they're allowing around 93 instead of the 97 that they're allowing right now, as it is. With Derrick Rose, they're a much deeper team, and they can go the whole game a lot better, and they can score the whole game a lot better. That opens up a lot of room for Doug McDermott and to shoot threes. Dunleavy to shoot threes. Dunleavy plays so much better with Derrick Rose in there. And then Aaron Brooks off the bench works so much better. Then you get that whole big man unit functioning off the bench with Taj Gibson and sometimes Nikola Mirotic. That team is completely, far and away, the deepest team in the NBA when healthy. And I think that with Derrick Rose, they're probably the best team in the NBA. But without him, it's a far cry of what they can be. I think they have a lot of good scorers this year, which is something we're not used to. And I think that the defense is going to start to fall into place. Because I think there's a lot of they're pretty much the same defense as last year, with the exception of Pau Gasol, who can't be any worse than Carlos Boozer on either end of the floor. So I think this team's going to start to pick it up defensively, and I think they'll pick up the rebounding as well. I think that they're going to start rebounding a lot more. I think Noah's going to be focused a lot more on rebounding, and Gibson will start pulling in more boards. I think this team is by far the best team in the East. And that's going to wrap up our section of fact and fiction. We're going to go Noah with some quick news.
Well, right now, before we get into quick news, I feel like we should update the scores. We already knew about the Magic defeating the Pistons, Heat over the Nets. Suns, they closed out the game. 4 straight unanswered points to defeat the Celtics. As I said, the Nuggets, who have been just awful, had a point, I believe, in their last game where they missed 15 straight shots against the Knicks. Defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 106-97 in Cleveland. The Mavericks defeat the Hornets 107-80. Now we have a game that just tipped off, and the Trailblazers have scored 8 straight points to open up an 8-0 lead over the Pelicans. Spurs leading by 12 against the 76ers, but the 76ers are on a 4-0 run. The Grizzlies have just destroyed the Rockets thus far, 117-91, and this would put the Grizzlies into sole possession of the number one spot